Marcus held his fire. Something had changed in the valley below. General Vextar was no longer shouting orders at his troops. Instead, the alien commander was standing completely still, staring up at the ridgeline where Marcus was hidden. Even from over 2 kilometers away, Marcus could sense the shift in the alien's demeanor. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like respect. Then Vextar did something unexpected. He raised his arms above his head in what was clearly a gesture of surrender. Marcus kept his crosshairs centered on the general's chest, but didn't fire. Through his scope, he watched as Vextar pulled out a communication device and began speaking rapidly in his own language. Whatever he was saying, it had an immediate effect on his troops. The scattered Zeltharian soldiers began emerging from cover, their weapons lowered. Marcus's cum unit crackled to life. He'd forgotten that he'd thrown it aside earlier, but apparently it was still functional. "Human sniper," came Vextar's voice, speaking accented but understandable English. "I request to speak with you under the laws of war." Marcus considered his options. The smart play would be to keep shooting until every last alien was dead or fled. He had them completely at his mercy, and they'd shown no intention of offering the same courtesy to the colonists of New Portland, but something in the general's tone gave him pause. The arrogance was gone, replaced by what sounded like genuine respect for a worthy opponent. Marcus keyed his microphone. "I'm listening, General. But make it quick. My patience ran out about 50 dead soldiers ago. I wish to apologize," Vextar said, and Marcus could hear the difficulty in the alien's voice. Apologizing clearly wasn't something Zeltharians did often. "I was warned of your capabilities 3 days ago. I chose not to listen. That was ... unwise." "Yeah, it was." "Your point?" "My point is that I underestimated your species." "We all did." "The Galactic Council classified humans as a primitive race, barely capable of interstellar travel. Our military doctrine assumed you would be easily defeated by superior technology and tactics." Marcus adjusted his scope slightly, keeping the general in perfect view. "And now?" "Now I understand why your species managed to dominate an entire planet despite having no natural advantages. You don't fight like any other species we've encountered. You fight like predators." "We are predators, General. We've been hunting and killing for millions of years. We just learned to do it with better tools." There was a long pause before Vextar responded. "How many of my soldiers have you killed today?" Marcus did a quick mental count. 73 confirmed, probably another dozen wounded who won't be fighting anytime soon. 70-3... Vextar repeated the number slowly, as if he couldn't quite believe it. 1 human. 73 trained Zeltharian warriors. I warned you this would happen. You laughed at me. Yes, I did. And now my soldiers are dead because of my arrogance." The alien general's voice carried a weight of regret that surprised Marcus. "Tell me, human sniper, what would it take for you to let my remaining troops withdraw?" Marcus had been expecting demands for surrender, not requests for mercy. It caught him off guard. "Why should I?" "You came here to kill my people." "Because continuing this battle serves no purpose. You have already proven your point. My forces are defeated. Our mission is impossible to complete. All further bloodshed will accomplish is to kill more of my soldiers while changing nothing about the outcome. Your superiors won't be happy if you retreat." "My superiors are not here, watching their troops die one by one against an invisible enemy. I am. And I am telling you that the Zeltharian Empire made a grave error in judgment regarding humanity." Marcus kept his rifle trained on the general while he considered. The smart thing to do was to demand unconditional surrender and take the entire force prisoner. But something in Vextar's voice suggested that might not be necessary. "What kind of error?" Marcus asked. "We assumed that a species new to space travel would be weak, unprepared for real warfare. We treated this invasion as a training exercise for our younger officers." Vextar gestured toward the bodies scattered across the valley floor. "Clearly, we were wrong." "You were. What are you going to do about it?" "If you allow my forces to withdraw, I will recommend to the Imperial High Command that humanity be reclassified as a Level 7 threat species. That will trigger a complete review of our relationship with your people. Marcus raised an eyebrow. He wasn't familiar with Zeltharian threat classifications, but the way Vexstar said it suggested Level 7 was significant. What does that mean exactly? It means we stop treating you as primitives to be conquered and start treating you as equals to be negotiated with. Level 7 species are considered too dangerous to fight unless absolutely necessary. And if I don't let you withdraw, then you will kill more of my soldiers, and eventually their deaths will be avenged by a much larger force. This will escalate into a full-scale war that will cost millions of lives on both sides. Neither of us wants that. Marcus had to admit the alien had a point. He could kill every Zeltharian in the valley, but that would just bring more ships, more soldiers, and more violence to Kepler 442b. The colonists wanted peace, not a war that would consume their new home. I have conditions, Marcus said finally. Name them. First, your forces withdraw immediately and never return to this system. Second, you provide full compensation to the families of any colonists killed in your previous raids. Third, you personally guarantee that the Zeltharian Empire will open formal diplomatic relations with the colonial administration within 30 days. Agreed. The speed of Vexstar S. acceptance surprised Marcus. He'd expected to negotiate, not receive immediate capitulation to all his demands. Just like that? Human sniper, you have just demonstrated that a single member of your species can defeat a full battalion of our best troops. If one human can do this, what could 1,000,000 humans do? What could 1,000,000,000 humans do? Vexstar S' voice carried a note of something that might have been fear. We have no desire to find out. Marcus considered this. He'd known that his actions today would send a message, but he hadn't fully considered the implications. Word of this battle would spread throughout the galactic community. Other species would hear that humans were not to be underestimated. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how it was handled. One more condition, Marcus said. You tell your superiors exactly what happened here. No spinning it, no making excuses. They need to understand that we're not aggressive, but we won't be pushed around. Understood. May I ask what is your name? For my report. Marcus hesitated. Giving his name would make him a target for revenge, but it would also make him a symbol. Other aliens would hear about the human sniper who stopped an entire invasion by himself. Marcus Chun, Staff Sergeant, Colonial Defense Force. Staff Sergeant Chun, you have taught me more about warfare in one day than I learned in 20 years of conquest. I will not forget this lesson. Marcus watched through his scope as Vexstar began organizing the withdrawal of his forces. The aliens moved with surprising efficiency, collecting their wounded and loading their vehicles. Within an hour, the entire Zeltharian force was retreating back down the valley. Marcus kept his rifle trained on them until they disappeared from view, then finally allowed himself to relax. His comm unit was buzzing with urgent messages from command, but he ignored them for now. He needed a moment to process what had just happened. He'd started the day as a sniper following orders to observe and report. He was ending it as the man who'd single-handedly defeated an alien invasion and possibly changed the course of human-alien relations forever. Not bad for a day's work 3 weeks later. Marcus sat in the Colonial Administration building in New Portland. Watching the news feeds from Earth, the story of the Battle of Devil's Perch had spread throughout human space, then leaked to the galactic community. The reaction had been everything General Vexstar had predicted and more. 5 alien species had formally requested diplomatic meetings with humanity. 3 others had withdrawn from territorial disputes with human colonies. The Galactic Council was debating whether to offer humans full membership instead of the observer status they'd been grudgingly granted. And it all started because one alien general had been too arrogant to listen to a simple warning. Marcus's new commanding officer, Colonel Sarah Martinez, entered his office carrying a thick folder of documents. More interview requests? Marcus asked. Worse. Job offers. The Earth Defense Force wants you to head up their new asymmetric warfare division. The Colonial Marines want you to train their sniper instructors. And something called the Strategic Deterrent Command wants to discuss long-range diplomatic solutions, whatever that means. Marcus shook his head. I'm not interested in becoming a celebrity, Colonel. I just wanted to do my job. I know. But like it or not, you've become a symbol of human military capability. The brass thinks your reputation alone might be enough to prevent future conflicts. Maybe it'll just encourage our enemies to bring bigger guns next time. Colonel Martinez sat down across from his desk. There's something else. We received a message through diplomatic channels yesterday from General Vextar. Marcus looked up with interest. What did he say? He wanted you to know that the Zaltharian Empire has officially reclassified humanity as... The attack began exactly 37 minutes later. Marcus watched through his scope as General Vextar raised his arm and gave the signal to advance. 800 Zaltharian soldiers began moving up the valley in perfect formation, their plasma weapons gleaming in the alien sunlight. Their vehicles rumbled forward, energy shields shimmering around them like soap bubbles. Marcus keyed his comm unit one last time. Command, enemy forces are advancing toward New Portland. Request immediate authorization to engage. The response came back within seconds. Negative, Overwatch. Stand down and observe only. Marcus turned off his comm unit and threw it into the rocks beside him. Some orders were too stupid to follow. He settled into his shooting position, checking his range cards one final time. The lead elements of the Zaltharian force were now 2,100 meters away and closing. In a few minutes, they'd be close enough to hit the settlement with their weapons. Marcus couldn't let that happen. The first shot was always the most important. It set the tone for everything that followed. Marcus chose his target carefully. Not General Vextar? Not yet. The alien commander was surrounded by bodyguards and staying low behind his command vehicle. Instead, Marcus picked the lead scout, a young Zaltharian who was walking point about 50 meters ahead of the main formation. The scout was moving fast, probably eager to prove himself in battle. He had no idea that death was watching him through a telescopic sight from over 2 kilometers away. Marcus took a breath, let half of it out, and gently squeezed the trigger. The rifle bucked against his shoulder with familiar authority. The hypersonic round crossed the distance in less than 2 seconds, traveling in a perfect arc that accounted for gravity, wind drift, and the planet's rotation. It struck the Zaltharian scout center mass, punching through his body armor like it was made of paper. The alien dropped instantly, his plasma rifle clattering across the rocky ground. For a moment, the entire Zaltharian formation froze. They'd heard the distant crack of Marcus's rifle, but they couldn't immediately locate the source. Marcus was using a flash suppressor and shooting from a concealed position. To the aliens below, he was invisible. General Vextar's voice echoed across the valley, shouting orders in the harsh Zaltharian language. The troops began to spread out, seeking cover among the rocks and sparse vegetation. Marcus was already lining up. His second shot, this time he chose an officer, easily identified by the golden insignia on his armor. The Zaltharian was trying to coordinate his squad's movement, standing partially exposed behind a boulder. It was good cover against direct fire from ground level, but useless against a sniper firing from above. The second shot took the officer in the head. Marcus had aimed for center mass, but the alien had moved at the last second. The result was the same, another dead Zaltharian and more confusion among their ranks. Now the aliens were starting to panic. They'd never faced an invisible enemy who could kill them from impossible distances. Their technology had shields against energy weapons and armor against conventional projectiles, but nothing could stop a depleted uranium round fired by someone who knew what he was doing. Marcus worked methodically, choosing his targets with the cold precision of a professional killer. Officers first, then heavy weapons specialists, then anyone who showed leadership initiative. Every shot was a killing shot. Every shot added to the growing chaos in the valley below. By his 10th kill, the Zaltharian advance had completely stalled. The surviving soldiers were huddled behind whatever cover they could find, afraid to move. Their commanders were dead, their communications were in chaos, and they still had no idea where the shots were coming from. General Vextar finally figured out the general direction of the attack. Marcus could see him through his scope, pointing toward the ridgeline where Devil's Perch was located. The alien commander was shouting orders, trying to organize a response. Marcus decided it was time to introduce himself properly. He shifted his aim to a fuel tank on one of the Zeltharian vehicles. The tank was heavily armored, designed to withstand plasma fire and explosive shells. It wasn't designed to withstand a depleted uranium round traveling at hypersonic velocity. The tank exploded in a brilliant fireball that sent shrapnel flying in all directions. 3 nearby soldiers were caught in the blast, their screams echoing across the valley. The vehicle itself was completely destroyed. Its wreckage scattered across a 50-meter radius. That got their attention, Marcus could see. Vextar threw his scope, the alien general's mouth hanging open in shock. The Zeltharian had probably never seen a single infantry weapon destroy a military vehicle before. His species fought with energy weapons that could be blocked by shields, or explosive devices that could be detected and neutralized. They weren't prepared for kinetic weapons that struck faster than sound itself. The general began shouting new orders. Marcus could read his lips well enough to understand the gist. Find the sniper and kill him. Half a dozen squads began moving toward the ridgeline, their plasma weapons charged and ready. Marcus let them come. He had the high ground, excellent concealment, and enough ammunition to fight a small war. More importantly, he had something the Zeltharians didn't: patience. The first squad reached the base of the ridge about 10 minutes later. They were good soldiers. Marcus had to give them credit. They moved with discipline and covered each other properly as they advanced up the rocky slope. Under different circumstances, he might have respected their professionalism, but these weren't different circumstances. These aliens had come to his world to kill his people, and Marcus took that personally. He waited until the lead squad was halfway up the ridge before he started shooting again. This time he was using his sidearm, a .45 caliber pistol that was laughably primitive by galactic standards, but perfectly adequate for close-range work. The Zeltharians had expected to face plasma fire or energy weapons when they found their target. They weren't prepared for solid metal bullets that punched through their armor like it was made of cloth. Marcus dropped all 6 members of the squad in less than 30 seconds, then shifted position before their backup could arrive. The second squad found their comrade's bodies, but not their killer. Marcus had already moved to a different hide site, one that offered excellent fields of fire down the opposite side of the ridge. When the aliens tried to flank him, he was waiting. More bodies, more confusion, more fear spreading through the Zeltharian ranks. General Vextar was beginning to understand what he was facing. Marcus could see the alien commander through his scope, studying the ridgeline with what looked like a pair of binoculars. The general's body language spoke of growing respect for his invisible opponent. Too little, too late, Marcus had warned them. He'd given them every opportunity to withdraw peacefully. They'd chosen to ignore his warning and attack his people anyway. Now they were learning why that had been a mistake. The battle continued for another 2 hours. The Zeltharians tried everything they could think of: indirect fire from their vehicles, aerial reconnaissance with flying drones, even a full-scale assault with 2 entire companies. Nothing worked. Marcus picked them off one by one, using terrain and concealment to stay ahead of their increasingly desperate attempts to locate him. By the time the twin suns reached their zenith, the valley floor was littered with alien corpses. What had started as an organized military advance had degenerated into a confused rout. The surviving Zeltharians were scattered among the rocks, afraid to move, afraid to stay, and completely unable to complete their mission. Marcus counted his ammunition. 43 rounds remaining for his rifle, 2 full magazines for his pistol, and 4 grenades that he hadn't needed to use yet. More than enough to finish the job. He centered his crosshairs on General Vextar one more time. The alien commander was still trying to coordinate his troops, still believing that discipline and determination could overcome a single human sniper. Marcus was about to teach him the final lesson about human warfare. Sometimes, one person with the right skills and the right motivation could defeat an entire army. All he had to do was squeeze the trigger. Marcus Chen adjusted the scope on his rifle for the 100th time that morning, watching the alien patrol move through the valley below. The Zeltharian Empire's troops marched in perfect formation, their blue-scaled bodies gleaming under the twin suns of Kepler 442. He had no idea a human sniper was watching them from 2 kilometers away. Hidden in the rocky outcropping that the locals called Devil's Perch, the war had been going on for 3 years now. What started as a simple territorial dispute over mining rights had escalated into a full-scale conflict when the Zeltharians decided humans were too primitive to deserve a seat at the galactic table. They were wrong about that. But Marcus had learned not to waste time explaining things to people who wouldn't listen. His comm unit crackled to life. Overwatch, this is Command. What's your status? Marcus keyed his microphone without taking his eye off the scope. Command, Overwatch. I have eyes on a full battalion moving through Sector 7. Looks like they're setting up for another push toward New Portland. Copy that. Rules of engagement? Marcus frowned. The same question every time, and every time the answer made his job harder. Still observing only, Command. No shots unless fired upon. Understood. Keep us posted. The connection went dead, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts and the sight of 800 enemy soldiers preparing to attack his people's settlement. New Portland was home to 15,000 colonists, mostly families who had come to Kepler 442 be looking for a fresh start after Earth became too crowded. They were farmers, teachers, engineers, and shopkeepers. They weren't soldiers, and they didn't deserve what was coming. Marcus had tried to warn the Zeltharian commander 3 days ago. He'd used the emergency diplomatic channel to send a message directly to General Vexstar, the leader of the invasion force. The message was simple: pull back your troops or face the consequences. The general's response had been even simpler: laughter. One human thinks he can threaten the might of the Zeltharian Empire, Vexstar had replied. Your species barely understands space travel, and you think you can challenge warriors who have conquered 17 star systems? Marcus had calmly explained that humans might be new to space, but they weren't new to war. He detailed his own background: 12 years as a Marine sniper, 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Syria, and countless smaller conflicts that never made the news. He'd mentioned his longest confirmed kill, 2,815 meters with a .50 caliber rifle in the mountains outside Kabul. He tried to explain that humans had been perfecting the art of killing each other for thousands of years before they ever left Earth. Vexstar had laughed again and cut the connection. Now Marcus watched through his scope as the Zeltharian forces prepared their assault. Their tactics were impressive by galactic standards, he supposed. They moved with discipline and coordination that spoke of extensive training. Their equipment was advanced, with energy shields and plasma weapons that could cut through steel like butter. By all rights, they should be able to roll over the human defenders without breaking a sweat, but they were making mistakes. Big ones. First, they were bunching up their officers. Marcus could see at least 6 individuals with the golden insignia that marked them as field commanders, all standing together near the center of the formation. They were probably planning their attack, going over maps and discussing strategy. It was smart leadership, but terrible survival instinct. Second, they were ignoring the terrain. The valley they'd chosen for their staging area offered excellent cover from orbital bombardment and aerial attack, but it was a sniper's dream. High ridges on both sides provided perfect shooting positions, and the rocky ground would make it difficult for the aliens to take cover once the shooting started. Third, and most importantly, they had no idea what they were dealing with. Marcus had spent the last 3 days studying their patrol patterns, their communication protocols, and their tactical doctrine. The Zeltharians fought like a species that had never encountered serious resistance. Their wars were won through superior technology and overwhelming force. They'd never faced an enemy that could kill them from 2 kilometers away. One shot at a time, his rifle was a work of art. custom built by the finest weaponsmiths on Earth before the colony ship departed. The barrel was made from a tungsten steel alloy that could handle the stress of firing hypersonic rounds. The scope was a masterpiece of human engineering capable of calculating wind speed, humidity, target movement, and even the planet's rotation to ensure perfect accuracy. The ammunition was equally impressive, depleted uranium rounds that could punch through most known armor materials, but the real weapon wasn't the rifle. It was Marcus himself. He'd been born in rural Montana, where his grandfather had taught him to hunt before he could properly tie his shoes. By age 12, he could hit a prairie dog at 500 yards with an old bolt-action .308. By 16, he was winning state shooting competitions. The Marines had taken his natural talent and refined it into something lethal. Marcus had killed his first enemy combatant at age 19, during his first deployment to Afghanistan. A Taliban sniper had been picking off American soldiers from a minaret in a small village. Marcus had found him and put a bullet through his head from 800 meters away. The shot had saved the lives of an entire platoon, but Marcus remembered feeling sick afterward. Killing wasn't supposed to be easy. It got easier with practice, though. By his third tour, Marcus could drop a target at over a kilometer without feeling anything more than mild satisfaction at a job well done. He'd learned to think of the enemy as problems to be solved rather than people to be killed. It was healthier that way. The Zeltharians had no idea what kind of problem they were about to become. Marcus keyed his unit again. Command Overwatch. The enemy is beginning their final preparations. I count approximately 800 troops, 20 vehicles, and 6 command staff. They'll be ready to move within the hour. Copy that, Overwatch. Reinforcements are still 6 hours out. Think you can slow them down if they start moving toward the settlement? Marcus smiled grimly. I can do more than slow them down, Command. I can stop them completely. But I need authorization to engage. Negative, Overwatch. Orders from Colonial Administration are clear. No aggressive action unless fired upon. We're still hoping for a diplomatic solution. Marcus closed his eyes and counted to 10. The Colonial Administration was made up of well-meaning bureaucrats who thought every problem could be solved with the right combination of paperwork and polite conversation. They'd never seen what plasma weapons did to human flesh, or watched children running from burning buildings while alien soldiers laughed. Understood, Command. Continuing to observe. But Marcus had already made his decision. The moment the Zeltharians started moving toward New Portland, he was going to start shooting. He'd deal with the consequences later. Through his scope, he watched General Vexstar emerge from a command vehicle. The Zeltharian was tall even by his species standards, with scales that had turned silver with age and scars that spoke of many battles. He was probably a capable commander by galactic standards, used to fighting opponents with similar technology and tactics. Marcus centered the crosshairs on Vexstar's chest and took a deep breath. The range was 2,247 meters, well within his capability. Wind was minimal, maybe 3 kilometers per hour from the east. The alien's body armor looked impressive, but Marcus doubted it was designed to stop a depleted uranium round traveling at 3 times the speed of sound. He could end this right now. One shot, and the Zeltharian invasion would be leaderless and confused. It would give the colonists time to evacuate, or at least prepare a proper defense, but orders were orders. Even when they were stupid. Marcus lifted his finger off the trigger and continued to watch. He'd give diplomacy one more chance. But when the aliens started moving toward his people, he was going to remind them why humans had earned a reputation as the most dangerous species in known space. The Zeltharians had no idea what was coming. They thought they were facing primitive colonists with outdated weapons and no military training. They were about to learn that humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being nice. Marcus had tried to warn them. Now it was too late.